Okay, excellent. Hey guys, welcome to this week's podcast episode, and I've got a fantastic guest for you today, Siquoyia Blue, and she's an uh, abstract soul singer. She's an entrepreneur. She's an art author. She's an artist, creative, and I love talking to creative entrepreneurs about their journeys. She's also a podcast host. You should check it out, Blu Alchemist podcast, and I'm happy to welcome a creative soul to the show. So, Sequoia, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here on this great Monday.
Yeah, yeah, I love this, and I always love creatives, and I think business, entrepreneurship, everything is the most successful is the our creatives. So, talk about your journey,
Mhm.
how you got started, what you do, and we'll dive right into kind of the mindsets and elements that make you so effective as a creative.
Oh, yeah, it's a good question. So basically, I started doing music at like 12 years old. I mean, that was just what I was best at. I mean, I wasn't really good at school. I wasn't really good in school, and that's because I didn't pay attention. I just didn't understand. So all I knew how to do was just, sing and draw. So that's what I was doing. And singing became my thing. That's all I wanted to do. And I just went on this journey of trying to figure out how to be an independent artist because no one knows, people just see the celebrities on TV, but don't know how to tell you how to do it. Don't really know what's going on. The business side is important. So when I got into learning the business side, that's when I got better. But in the beginning, it was like me just performing at different places. When I got to college, which my first college was Orange, Atlanta, I used to perform a lot in Atlanta. So I would go to different open mics. I would do poetry. I would sing. And there was so many talented artists out there. It was just so cool. And at the time, I was like, man, I need to get some equipment, some studio equipment, because as a woman in the industry, it's kind of hard to just be going to all the male studios and stuff. And it was kind of hard to get my fair due justice. So it took a minute to really get my own studio. But in my early 20s, I would go to other studios and stuff, ones I could trust. And I was able to record my first album at 23 years old. My first album was
Wow.
called Limitless. And some people might say it's like a jazz soul album, like a jazz soul vibe, because I was never someone that fit the box, if you will, like someone that's like, oh, this is her genre and that's that. Like you really didn't know, people didn't really know what to do with me. And around that time, when I was in my early 20s, that was when music was changing. We had LimeWire, we had all types of stuff going on. So it was just so you got people putting out different styles of music. There was more of that going on. So so when I did my first album, it was like this breath of fresh air because you're frowned upon when you're getting into the creative space. Everybody wants you to be doctor or engineer, or just be what they're used to seeing. So
Yeah.
to me, it was like, man, I left my mark on the world. And then I was able to create some more songs after that, a few singles I did. And now I have my own recording studio. So now I can do a lot of stuff. I record my own music now, and I can have my own space and not feel like, okay, someone's going to take something, or if I have to, it's just, you feel like you're in your own element, which is more peaceful. And that tech part of me came in to learn that, the tech side of me jumps in because everything's connected. And and also that's also during that time I wrote my first book when I was in the midst of me. I guess I wanted to get out that creative juice because I couldn't always go to studio because it was expensive back then. So when I wrote my first book, that was also another sector that I didn't know I was talented in. So that was one thing that I did as well. And then after that, I wrote two more books. So
Yeah.
yeah, so that's my creative steps, the creative side that I started at. You know,
Yeah.
I probably jumped around, but
Yeah, journey, and I really love the city of Atlanta because it's got a lot of soul, and it's a lot of musicians,
Mhm.
actors, producers. It's a very yeah, it's a very uh great city, and
Man,
so yeah.
it was
um
beautiful.
yeah, it's interesting because as a youngster, I kind of fell in line and kind of just kind of played the game, and it was just to me it was so cheesy, but I was just like there's no other way. But I was always in the back of my mind, I was always thinking of ways to fire my job, and
Hmm.
where I didn't have to like, ask for permission and all this. So, talk about
Yeah.
this idea because you mentioned, and everybody wants you to be an engineer, an accountant, some, box, but we're neurodivergents. And so talk about,
Hmm.
having faith, branching out, controlling your perceptions, when people say you're weird or, talk about how you manage those.
I like that you said neurodivergent. Like I didn't know what that was until now. Like I just learned about that like maybe a few months ago. But I was
Yeah.
definitely neurodivergent in my 20s. I was just this out of the box person. And even though I had some insecurities in my 20s, and I could be further now if I had not had those roadblocks, but I still pursued and still recorded music because I was like, I felt called to. It was like, I don't know if you want to call it
Yeah.
spiritual or science thing, but I felt pulled to do this said thing, even though everybody's like, yeah, you can't be a singer. There's too many singers out there. There's too much going on. I just did it anyway because, my family, we have nurse practitioners in my family. My stepdad's nurse practitioner, my mom's nurse practitioner, my aunt's a CNA. It was just so much. Everybody was in that nurse sector. And I'm like, that's not me. I don't want to deal with being up and down the hall. I mean, they made money, but they weren't happy. They were tired. They couldn't pee at work. It was just nuts. So I was like, I don't want
Uh,
to do that. So that's what I said. I said, I have to continue this and I have to believe that even if it doesn't go to what it looks like success, because I think there's different sides of success. There's this, okay, you got the beamer and you're on TV every day. Then you have, okay, you're just a great singer. You're making this amount of money. Or if you don't make a lot of money, you're doing what you love to do, and you may just jump into other sectors to help support that music or whatever, because that's a whole other topic. We learn a lot about that. But I do think that the more confidence you have, the more you could make money in that industry because you can make a certain amount of money in there. And that's what I think kind of kept me going and having that confidence. But just knowing that it's going to take a minute to get there because you have to invest. You have to invest and you have to put yourself out there. So that's what got me that confidence to say, I'm going to put this album out, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to learn this along the way. And it's not going to be overnight. It's just not.
mm,
And that's how I was able to continue this journey. And it's in fast forwarding to now, being older and being more confident to do things and to research things and try to understand things. My whole life changed. Like I was able to really start diving into the business side and understand it because I've seen a lot of artists get in bad situations in Atlanta where they thought that this label did this or was going to do this for them, and it ended up being a game, or they just wasn't happy, they felt constricted, they couldn't be themselves. So I said I didn't want that neither. So that independent boss, mentality came to me around my late 20s, and I think that's when things shifted. It was like this mindset that no one knows everything, and that you have to find what your level of success is, not what they think your success should be. And
uh,
that's when things got better. That's when everything
yeah.
got fruitful.
Interesting, because I was just talking to the last podcast guest, and we're just talking about this idea of material success, and
Mm,
people you would never imagine, are they, you see people with fancy houses and cars, and but deep down they're broke, or their spouse is cheating on them, or
mhm,
something, and but outwardly it's like they have it all, and then you look at another individual, looks like
mhm,
they're not successful, but peel back the curtain, it's like they've got they're investing and they're doing things. It's quite interesting how the world is just so effed up
mhm.
in those words, but just
Man,
like but
that's why I'm pushing this message. Like that's another reason I started, getting on podcast stuff, because I want people to know that you have to find what is your success. Because there's a saying, be careful what you get, what you wish for, because you may get it. No, you will get it. If you work hard for it, I swear you'll get it. And then it might not be what you want, and so you gotta be careful. You gotta really think and research it and know that's what you want to do.
yeah, talk about intentionality, because a lot of successful entrepreneurs,
Yeah.
creatives, artists, they talk about intentional, and it's all it's kind of this like cliche or buzzword, but talk about how to be intentional.
I think intention comes with, okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this song, or I'm gonna do this album, and I'm gonna set my energy out on this task. Staying, I guess, stand still, if you will, like 10 toes down on it. Like no one can break me on this said task that I'm gonna do. And I'm gonna be intentional about it so it can get done. Because I mean it kind of goes into entanglement with I guess goal
Yeah.
setting, setting this goal. But being intentional is like you're setting that intention, you're putting that energy behind it. That's how I look at it. You're putting that energy behind it, and there's no other choice for it to happen. And I've seen things happen in my life where when I put that intention behind it, it happens. But when I don't, and when I'm shaky ground and I'm half on and half off, it doesn't happen. And maybe I didn't want it really, or maybe I did, but that's what it's about, is setting that intention out and saying this is what I'm gonna do and believing in it. And it may not happen at the date you want it. Like sometimes you might say, I'm gonna do it by end of the month. Well, you might say, I want to change this part on it. I want to do this real quick. And so not saying be over perfectionist, because I think being over perfect could also slow you down, but put that energy out there to get done, because I believe everything is attracting, everything is following us. Like whatever you're thinking, everything is working with you. Believe it or not, science, whatever, everything is working. The tree, the people next door, it's all working with your intention. And if you set that intention and you do the work to boot, you'll get it done. That's what I
Yeah.
believe about being intentional. That's my definition.
Yeah. I've heard this really great quote. It's talking about attention energizes. So your RAS, like it energizes, and the intention
Mm-hmm.
transforms that intention. That's how you manifest. Which, kind of, I have a question, from the audience is like, when you talk about you're trying to manifest, but let's say, it will happen eventually, but let's say, how do you distinguish between it's never going to happen versus it's going to happen, but it's going to be on a delayed timeline or a different timeline or a different path, something that was unexpected. How do you
Ooh,
reconcile that?
that's a good one, because that's what I just, for the last 3, 4 years in my spiritual journey, that's what I went through. It was kind of like, you know, you watch so many law of attraction videos. I've studied all this stuff, and you watch so many people say, okay, this is what I went and I put this shirt online to sell, and then I put I put the energy out to the universe, and the next day I made $1 million. That's not how it works. At or they say, "Oh, I went and checked the mailbox, and 1 million was in the mailbox, man," or 1,000 or whatever. That's not how it works. I mean, I do. Is there some anomalies in the universe? Yes, possibly, but I do think no. Sometimes it just don't happen because it wasn't meant to happen. I do think there was some type, like some people don't believe in that. They be like, "Oh, if it's gonna happen, if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it." It's not about no meant to happen. No, I do think there's some type of being at the right place at the right time, the right thought process at the right time, it's all working together. So I do think that things could happen later, but it's still going to happen. Like it took 10 years for me to get a recording studio, but it happened. I put the intention out there. I said I wanted to have my own recording studio. I wanted to be in charge of it, and it happened. And and it happened better than I wanted, but it took 10 years. And somebody might say, well, I ain't going to get that because it's my fifth year. I still have it. No, you have to still believe it, and not judge yourself because of age and stuff like that, and say, okay, I'm 30 years old now and I don't have, no, if you want it, you're going to get it. It's just not at the time that you think. So I do want to say to the audience, if you want it, then just believe in it and it's going to still come. Now, if you want to come faster, I believe there's ways you can kind of mess with the universe, but I still think that, and I mean mess with the universe, like, I guess it depends on what you want. If you want that house, you want to buy that house. I think that everything comes with preparation as well as going after that dream and what's meant for you. But it just depends on the preparation too. But I do believe in timing. I'm sorry, I think timing is number one.
Which you also talked about independent artists, and talk about retaining creative control, because I know, for example, like Tyler Perry, he was like, his I love his movies because he's always throwing like these sarcasms against the kind of these racial sarcasms in his movies. And
Oh,
there was a point where he was actually wanted the I'm sorry to say this, but the white people wanted to own and control him, but he's like, no, screw you, I'm gonna go
Mm,
build my own studio. So
mm.
talk about retaining independent control, especially your intellectual property.
I think it's important. I mean, like Tyler Perry says, don't ask for a seat at the table, build your own table. And I do agree with that. I think that when you own your own stuff, I think it's more fun. Like when for me, I'm an independent artist, and I feel like it's important to have your own everything trademark, copyrighted, have your music registered with the what are they called? I can't my mind going blank right now. BMI. So have it registered with BMI or some service similar, and just
Yeah.
just do the business side. Understand the business side. Go sit down and study, because you can't depend on someone else to tell you your books and tell you everything, because you can't trust everybody. I'm sorry. So you want to know what you're doing. And if you do hire somebody, at least you know what you're doing to watch over them. Because and then at that point, you can get all your money back. You can negotiate deals and do more so of a partnership instead of a dictatorship where somebody's telling you, no, I don't like how you wrote that line. You can't do that movie. Tyler Perry didn't want that. He wanted to be able to talk the way he wanted. He wanted to do what he wanted to do. And that's fine. I feel that way too, because with my music, I didn't want to be someone else
Uh,
or do this and that. Like you heard stories, a lot of artists are forced to be this pop singer. They didn't want to do pop, and then they get depressed. And I read Russell Simmons' book, Do You? And one thing in Russell Simmons' book, it said this is when I was 21 years old. It said that your most famous artists are in the room crying and they're depressed because they're being somebody they're not. They're playing a caricature, if you will. I don't want to be that. And when I read that at 21, it was an eye opener for me. Like, wow, okay, so they're just being someone else. And then you hear other stories like that, and you're seeing it in your face. You're like, whoa, no, no, no. I want to be a boss. I want to be a boss. I don't want to have nothing to do with that, because I don't want to be somewhere in some mansion if I get there crying, or I don't want to be somewhere broke because that person stole all my money because I didn't know business, because I didn't know how to read the contract. Heck no. So I do agree with Tyler Perry, and some people, everybody's not a business person. I hate to say it. Can they become it if they want? Yes, but some people don't want to do it. So you're going to be stuck under, Lionsgate and do what they say, or are you going to be stuck under the record label Universal Music Group, do what they say? That's on you. But for the people that want to own and be in charge and help employ others, help people out, learn that stuff, man. There's so many free training now, Udemy, all types of stuff that is giving you free training, or ding on there, free training on how to do this. It's teaching you everything. I mean, it's just a great time to be a boss, man.
yeah. The other question is because you talk about the influence of books and great works. And you talked about Do You? What are some other books that for the audience that they can check out that helped you on your journey?
Oh my God, I would say The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. That changed my life. I mean, that was the book where it was like talking about your personal legend and talking about meant to be, and what you were talking about earlier about people saying, oh, how come their success is delayed and all that. Man,
Uh,
Alchemist explains it. It tells you that everything is lining up to where you're meant to be. It tells you it's lining up to your personal legend. So every sign is there that's showing you you're on the right path if you know how to read those signs. And that's where we go into being aware, being awake. And that's what the real woke means. Other people using woke for something else. Woke means being aware, being a conscious of what is around you and what's going on. Because if you ask something, rather you ask God, or just asking a question saying, man, how am I going to do this right now to get here? Man, you start going outside, you watch a show or something, and that's where you get the answer. If you are aware and you're paying attention, you get those answers. So that's why I say The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, The Science of Getting Rich. That's a good book too, because it teaches you how to get your mindset right. Because your mindset is number one before you do anything else. I'm sorry, if you don't have the right mindset, and even if it's ebb and flow, if you can control it, then you're good. Even if you have those bad days, you control that mofo, you get back on point. And that's what The Science of Getting Rich teaches you. I met a millionaire that read that book every day to keep his mind right. And he's the one that referred me the book. And there was another book, Think and Grow Rich. That book has helped me out a lot too. It's similar to Science of Getting Rich, because Science of Getting Rich came out before Think and Grow Rich, which I didn't know until somebody taught me that. And then and then Think and Grow Rich, I was like, whoa, it's all adding up now. Everything is just adding up. I read so many books. It's just not even funny. I can't remember the rest of them, but
Yeah.
the Game of Life and How to Play It. Read that too. That one's really good. The Game of Life and How to Play It.
Interesting. I have to check that out. Yeah, I'm always in the Alchemist, the Think and Grow Rich. Is I think I've read The Science of Getting Rich. Um, so the other question is on this journey, how do you know who to pay attention to, who to listen to, who to take advice from, and who to ignore? Because you can have people that are just kind of using you. There's people that are trying to hold you back. How do you deal with all of
I think it's how they make me feel with the question and energy. I'm all about energy,
that?
and I know everybody is not intuitive or whatever, but for me, it's about energy and intuition. So if I feel something when someone asking me a question about something, like I know when someone's just trying to see if I'm failing or not. I can just feel it. Like, hey, are you still doing that? You still doing music? You still,
Uh,
it's just most of the time those energies are like people trying to see if I failed, which you can't fail with something that's out for people to view. Anytime something's online or out to purchase or stream, or it's on radio, whatever, you've won in your own way. Now you don't have to come up with a BMW if you don't want to, but you've won in your own way, so you don't have to really prove it. And even if you're not
yeah,
performing, because some artists don't perform, doesn't mean you lost neither. Some singers are just putting songs into movies and TV shows and putting music online for people to view, and that still is winning too. So I think, sorry, what was my? I was like, what I was going to say, because I get into a tangent, but
uh,
that's what I would say to naysayers. That's what I say. That's how I find out who to say stuff to, and it took me years to get there. It took me years to get there. I just got there maybe a few years ago, like 2 years ago. I started to
yeah,
believe in my intuition. But yeah, I think
interesting.
that's for anybody too. Think about how that person make you feel, like when they're asking you, and don't question it all the time, or even question the person, like, why did you ask me that? Or,
Yeah,
even doing that.
yeah, it's really in a lot of creative entrepreneurs, they're intuitive, so they're empathic,
Mhm.
and yeah, I've learned just to keep my mouth shut, and like just and then the people that I vibe with, I can freely, but then just like kind of like people that just don't get it, or I just keep my mouth shut and see where they are in like 5 to 10 years. Usually they're not doing much, but
Mm. Even if it's your
um
relatives, you have to,
yeah.
because some people think they have to tell their relatives everything. You don't.
Yeah, really interesting. So kind of ended with how people can find you. I know you've got a podcast, you've got a film,
Yeah.
you've got a book. And so how can people reach out to you, follow you on
Us.
socials?
So yes, so you can follow me on Instagram at I am Siquoyia Blue. You can follow me there. I post there. I'm trying to post more. And you can go to my website, sequoiablue.com, and subscribe, and got some stuff that I'm working on. I'm going to be sending out some emails. Also have a dating card game. So if you're into dating or just want to just have a connection moment with your partner, go to datingassassins.com. And the podcast, yes, check out blualchemistpodcast.com. It's a pretty unorthodox podcast because I'm unorthodox. So everything that I do is unorthodox. Check it out.
Yeah. And for all the audience, let's thank Sequoia for coming on, and be sure to check out her books, podcast, album, give her a like and follow on socials. And with that, thanks so much for an inspiring podcast.
Thank you.